Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter of the book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work, in this body of work, I should say, and that tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click it, download it, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have called in to be stepped through that worksheet process and or given powerful testimonials about how the active use of that process in their lives has benefited them. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words, Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do that soon and often, because it frequently leads to comments or questions and or testimonials. And if you have any of those for us, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, it'll let the host of the show know that you have a comment or a question or a testimonial, and they'll turn on your microphone so you can have a conversation. Alternatively, you can send us an email. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. You can also email Jeannie for the second hour of the show at jeanie@whyagain.org. And if you do that when you're not able to listen live, then we'll receive your email and we will do our best to discuss your question or comments, and then you can listen to the archives for your answer. We're also doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year, and today is the 313th day of the year. Today's lesson simply reads, Now let a new perception come to me. The commentary reads, with slight modifications to accommodate what Michael Rice would call regulatory speech. Creator, there is a vision which beholds all things as sinless, so that fear has gone, and where it was is love invited in, and love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift. The eyes of the Christ mind look on a world forgiven. In the Christ mind's sight are all its sins forgiven, for the Christ mind sees no sin in anything it looks upon. Now let its true perception come to me, that I may waken from the dream of sin and look upon my sinlessness, which you have kept completely undefiled upon the altar of your holy offspring, the self with which I would identify. Let us today behold each other in the sight of the Christ mind, and how beautiful we truly are, how completely whole and how loving, Brother and sister, come and join with me today. We save the world when we have joined together, for in our vision it becomes as holy as the light in us. And the Pam Grout Course in Miracles Experiment Commentary for Lesson 313 is titled, To See Anew. And here Pam quotes Byron Katie as saying, what are we believing that costs us our freedom, our happiness, and the awareness of our own true nature? Pam Grout writes, the ego is a master of disguise. It pretends to support spiritual enlightenment. It loudly applauds spirituality as a worthy, glorious goal. Too bad, it says, that it takes so damn long. Well, Lesson 313 tells me my ego needs to just quiet down. And it says instead, point number 1, there is no need to wait. Love, peace, and joy are as close as my next breath. These attributes are literally who I am. Point number 2, there is no need to work hard. The notion of working at being love or being peace or joy is laughable. It's like working to breathe or working to make the sun come up. And the third point is, my own personal superhero is always on call. The Course in Miracles says it like this: we are never left comfortless. At any time, the Holy Spirit, our very own superhero, stands by waiting for our call. It never takes a break. It never demands overtime or maternity leave. It's ready and eager to respond to my every need. So, that's our Course in Miracles lesson, and from the workbook, Lesson 313, and the Pam Grout Course in Miracles Experiment Commentary. And as usual, we have about 50 minutes left for conversation. How can we support you today? What's on your mind? What would be of value to spend our time on today? 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1, and we can have a conversation. I was thinking this morning, I've had this in several of my sessions with people lately, and that is the need to adjust so that I'm no longer trying to live my life based on what other people would want me to do. And many of us spend a significant amount of our time, intelligence, money, and energy in the trap of trying to do something that we think other people would want us to do or say or be. And it's a huge trap. I was sparked into this yesterday when we were discussing some of the commentary from the Difficult Conversations book from the Harvard Negotiating Project, where they talk about trying to take into account your impact on other people and their emotions. And the idea is a trap from everything I've observed and the core of the Way of Mastery work and the Course in Miracles work and the Jesus, My Autobiography work, and pretty much everything that we talk about in the Mindshifter support groups and on Mindshifter Radio. The understanding that my experience of life is created by the way I choose to interpret and respond to life events. It's not created by the life events. It's created by how I choose to interpret and respond to these life events. And, you know, it's part of, to paraphrase much of what Dr. Michael Rice talks about in almost every one of his lectures, is part of one of the greatest travesties of our Western culture anyway, that we are not taught how we are the architect of our life experience. We are the actual author of our life experience. And we are, in one way or another, led to believe that life is happening to us rather than that we are actively creating our experience of life in each new present moment. If you understand the power and the actuality of that observation, your life starts to change dramatically. And it will change dramatically moment to moment based on your choices, rather than it will free you from the kind of the habit of responding automatically from what Michael Rice would call the automatic decision maker process within the mind, and allows you to understand that your experience of life in each new present moment is created by the way you choose to interpret and respond to life events. Not by the life events, but by your choice of how to interpret and respond to them. I remember in a story, I believe it was Pico Ayer, who was a writer, philosopher, spiritual teacher. Been for years. His father used to travel with the Dalai Lama, and for years Pico Ayer has been connected to the teachings of the Dalai Lama, and I believe it was in one of his stories where I heard that I think he was in his 20s, and the family home that he lived in with his parents in Southern California just burned to the ground because of one of those forest fires. And he talks about, being there at some time in the late night, walking into a 7-Eleven with just enough money to buy a toothbrush, and everything else he owned was gone. And his experience of it was that this was a life opportunity. This was a lesson jumping off point. Not this was a tragedy, but it's things like that when you know people who've been through that, and it is the understanding that every one of us has the opportunity to choose our interpretation of and our response to life events. That is what frees us. That's what gives us liberty in each new present moment. And the fact that we are not taught that in school over and over again from a very young age is a part of what keeps us trapped in our cultural and family conditioning. So the families we're raised in condition us, and the life events we go through and the things that we download and the things we run from in fear make up the baggage that we carry and the programming and the conditioning that we are responding from, and that's something we can get access to. But the only way we can get access to it is to acknowledge it and deal with it head on, to step forward into anything we might generate fear about. When every one of us wakes up and realizes that we are the author of our fear, that's a game changer. I've had a number of people in the past week or two that they talk about how, well, they've got this anxiety up because ... And it's my job to let them know they don't have anxiety because of anything outside of them. The anxiety that they feel is a very familiar energy. They have felt it many, many times in their life, and they are creating it. They are authoring it every time it arises. Michael Rice likes to say, if I've been through this situation 87 different times with 42 different people, I might one day wake up and realize, if I'm starting to observe, that I'm the only one who was there every time. Well, the same kind of thing applies here. If I recognize that I am feeling this anxious energy, and I recognize that this anxious energy is not new, I have felt it many, many times before, then I might start to lose interest in the story that wants to tell me that I'm only feeling this because of this person not wearing a mask, or that person yelling at me because I am wearing a mask, or this person not wanting to be vaccinated, or because of that person driving erratically, or because of fill in the blank. I'm only feeling anxious because ... The truth of the matter is, my anxiety is an energy that I author within myself and I feel within myself and nowhere else. It is not created by the outside experiences. It is only, always, and forever created inside my mind-body energy system. And it's created by the way I choose to interpret and then respond to life events. And when I step out of the belief that it's caused by something outside of me and turn my focus onto the internal process that's creating it, I open up the possibility of influencing it and creating something new. Welcome, Susan Bingham.
Hey, welcome, Tim Hayes. First, I am halfway through your Richard Moss recording. I found it on the podcast this morning. I guess it just got put up there, right?
Just this morning.
Yeah, good. I'm halfway through. I must say, what a lovely man. And I'm at the point, sort of halfway through, where he's having trouble. It seems as if he's having trouble articulating what you're just talking about. And he does it all right, but his experience is so profound and so internal, I guess, that he seemed to have a hard time finding words, as one would with a profound experience that just went beyond. Anyway, that's just a comment. It's not a question, but I do have a question.
Okay. What's your question?
My question is, one thing the tools have done is Moss is just talking about things we've been talking about, Michael's tools, the wake-up sheet and all the other tools. I have found a way to recognize fear when it comes in and breathe and step away from it with my other mind and watch it. But there's something else weird going on. We had this week or week and a half when my grandson was living with us, and it was chaotic. His mental state was chaotic, and I was doing really well with fear. I thought I was noticing anxiety and sort of projecting into the future, doing very well with it. But what happened is I developed these incredibly painful muscle tension in my neck on one side particularly, but they're on both sides, to the point where even teaching yesterday, I had such a pain in my shoulder blade area that I couldn't even do one of the exercises. And I thought, have I gone backwards? Here I've been handling the anxiety, but it's gone into my body. It's gone backwards. And I wonder if you could say anything about that. I actually had an x-ray because I thought maybe I had terrible osteoporosis or something. And the guy said, "What's been happening in your household? What's been happening in your life? Nothing wrong with your bones."
Good for him.
I said, "Oh, funny you
or
do
her,
that."
yeah.
Him, yeah, great
well, but
guy.
that isn't necessarily going backwards, and that's important, right? That is just recognizing that your body is telling you something and being willing to go to what it's telling you.
Right. Well, and I can tell what it's telling me. It's telling me that I'm in a situation that I feel over my head about, and I feel helpless and ineffectual and impotent, and I know.
But now let's restate that slightly, right? You're in a situation. You're in a situation, and the aches and pains in your body are probably most useful as if you interpret them as letting you know that you've got a lot of your mind-body energy system focused on things you have no control over.
Right.
And so tapping into there's any number of ways to use the tools that Michael and Jeannie make available on the website to start addressing that. You can do worksheets on the aches and pains. You can do 3 early memories of conflict, and when you're conscious of those aches and pains, and see if that kind of tension in your body someplace got downloaded and originated at a younger age when there was conflict, or where there was a situation that you desperately wanted the situation to be different than it was. You could do a mind shifter on how it's safe and healing for you to clearly see and understand the origins of the aches and pains, the energy that's coming up as aches and pains. Any of those might help you move into and through that experience and start to shed some light on what you're doing with your mind energy to create that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I must say, I haven't done that because I thought, well, I know what I'm afraid about, and I know it seems to me that the worksheets would only yield what I already know. Think about it this way. I remember one time, this just popped into my head, so I'll share it with you. I remember one time fairly early on, one of the first times you called into the radio show, you said, "I know it's silly, but I actually believe that my worrying keeps my son's plane in the air." Yeah, I know. Yep, that's true.
Right? Yep. You remember saying that back along the line? This could be that same thing. This could be that another level of that same dynamic.
Oh, boy. That is weird. That could be. Oh, so, okay. I can think of a mind shifter then. It's safe and healing for me to feel loose and free in my body and my soul, even though Jacob is going through what he's going through.
There you go. There you go.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's so amazing. Okay. Yep. All right. What can I say? I mean, bingo.
Well, you'll find out if it's bingo as you do the work, right? And if the work you do to either journal or do the mind shifters or the worksheets around that results in a release of the stress and tension in your body, then you'll know it's a bingo. But up until then, it's just a hypothesis.
Okay.
There might be a part of your mind that you need to step into and give yourself permission to step into that feels like, you know what, a grandmother doesn't deserve to be relaxed and happy if her grandson is in pain. This could be another one of those earlier downloads where you felt like you didn't deserve to be happy and creative and high functioning when the people around you, when your mother and father weren't happy and living the good life or whatever, however your mind would create that statement.
It is so weird, Dr. Tim, that I have this thought that these knots cannot be undone. They are so tight that no amount of pressing on them or shots with whatever they put in there, I know they can do things. I've got this belief. Yeah, okay. That they can't be, and I'm wondering too, I mean, the doctor said, go get a massage and get somebody to work on your back. You just need to, and I'm thinking no amount of pressure. It'll hurt like hell and it won't help is my idea. So I had a lot of ideas about these knots.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and, the ones that are most important are the ones about, are you worthy? Is it safe for you and those you love, for you to be relaxed and at ease and at peace in your life?
I'm feeling that question, yeah.
Because if you have the belief that it's not safe for you and the ones you love, then you won't let that happen.
Okay.
You have the desire to have it happen, but if there's a part of you that believes it's not safe for you and the ones you love, you won't let it happen.
Boy, this is amazing because I thought I'd done this. I don't know if there's a direct connection, but my son, I remember saying to him and believing and feeling after doing work with you and Michael and doing the worksheets, I said to my son, whatever you're going through, I cannot suffer for you or with you anymore. I can just be here and believe in you and believe that everything will be all right and that you are all right. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again. And my son said, that is fantastic. I never wanted you to go down there. And it probably was a month later when he called and said, I didn't think this was possible, but I have found a way to be a doctor where I love my work. And I told him, there are certain things I'm not going to do anymore. I don't want to do this, don't want to do that, and do the other. But I will do this, that, and the other, which you also need. How about it? And they said, great, we'll take it. He comes home every day and says, I'm exhausted. I had 4 cases that were just cliffhangers. But I was happy and relaxed, and I'm loving my work. And I'm thinking, is there a corollary between my letting him go and him going? That means grandmothers are really powerful in a negative way and a positive way. I mean, I was wondering if I've been holding him down with my anxiety about him all this time. God forbid, what a horrible thought. Anyway. There I go again. I know.
There you go again, turning whatever it is, it's just a neutral thing, into a negative.
Yep. Okay. I heard it.
Yeah.
It's not nice of you to laugh.
Well, I'm enjoying with you the insights you're having. Right? This is our work. We have to understand that it's all just life. It's all just neutral until we turn it into something else. And if I can't, enjoy that discovery, then I'll never let myself have the discovery. If I stay in it and take myself too seriously, then I won't ever let myself see clearly to the end of it. So,
You know,
just
it all
watch
ties
that pattern.
together.
What do you call that thing that your favorite miserable feeling? Isn't that
right.
your phrase?
Yeah.
Just watch that pattern.
Right.
And the better any of us get at identifying our favorite miserable feeling, the more free we're going to get from it. But the more I think my favorite miserable feeling isn't me choosing it, it's life doing it to me, then there's no way for me to be free.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel as if most of us probably live in a margin between going down the tubes and being free. We step into that middle ground where we notice the tubes right there. We feel the invitation to go down the tubes. We feel the edges, if not the full impact of my favorite miserable or whatever anybody else's is, rage or fear or sadness, whatever it is. We step away just enough to look at it, but we're not free of it yet. I feel as if a lot of my time is spent in that margin of noticing it, breathing through it, stepping as far away from it as possible, then distracting, then getting back on track, and maybe even feeling really good. But I guess it's a habit that we have to form. Or maybe, Pam Grout says it doesn't take a long time. You can just step over there. I feel as if maybe it's a belief that it's going to take a big margin of noticing, stepping away, dismantling, breathing, tapping, whatever it is, worksheets, and then I'm okay. Pam Grout says you don't have to do that. Wow, what a great idea.
Right. Well, how many times have you and I been through that where we've talked about, you talk about, this is going to be so hard and there's so much work to do. That's a conceptualization.
Yeah.
It's not, that doesn't exist anywhere but in your mind. Course in Miracles, Way of Mastery, all of them say, look, you are a thought away from the Christ mind. You are one willing thought away from being connected to the consciousness which is the Christ mind. You're a thought, you're a breath away. It's not just Pam Grout saying that. She's distilling the essence of the message from the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery. What were you going to say?
Yeah. You know how people say when you step into that state, the Christ mind state, miracles happen. And I often thought, well, yeah, right. But I had a small one today. I'd like to tell you about it. We work with refugees. I just work on Tuesday mornings, that's all. There are all these families have come in from Afghanistan, and we're hearing stories like one family, 6 children, a newborn baby, and 5 other kids got over here. They said that they had to hide in a ditch for 2 days and 2 nights on their way to the airport because the Taliban were infiltrating everything. And they are, I don't remember the kind of Muslim they are. I think there's a minority group that's being very much targeted right now. They are so glad to be over here and feeling safe. They're just shiny people. So they're talking. And then this woman comes in who's a speech therapist, works full-time, but wants to volunteer 1 morning a week with the littlest, because she's trained with the little kids, 1 to 3 or 4 years old, on helping them speak with a good accent and understanding words, forming the words, because their mouths are actually formed differently. They've spoken a different language, and they have the capability of making very different sounds than we do in this country. I started talking to her, and I said, I know you work with young people. Do you know a vocal therapist for a young adult? And she said, I know the perfect program. Tell me about the situation. And I did. I told her about Jacob and his overdosing on LSD and psychedelics and vaping and how he fears he's ruined his voice. she told me about a free program, a lot of student interns needing clinical work in the field before they actually graduate, who would love to work with him, and they can even work with him on Zoom from where he is now. And she's already texted this woman and said this young man may be contacting you, and that felt like one of those miracles. But it happened because this new person, I was remembering the lesson this morning and yesterday particularly, and looking at her with kind of new eyes, like this is a wonderful creature of God, and I'm interested in her. I just introduced myself, and we began talking, and this came out of it. Now, that's not really a miracle, but it's a byproduct of being in the right Christ mind, or at least open. I know I'm going on, but today was such a great day because of that.
Well, and remember, we're told over and over again in Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery, there is no hierarchy in miracles. There's no order of difficulty.
Good. That was a good thing to say. So I thought this was a teeny miracle. Yeah.
No,
good.
It isn't. None
miracle.
of them are teeny.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to look up the lyrics of the song by Peter Mayer. And the song title is Holy Now. And, in the lyrics, it talks about how, when I was young, and we would, holy water was rare at best, and we barely used it to wet our fingertips. Now, I'm swimming in a sea of it.
Wow.
Right? It used to be a trick to find a miracle. Now the trick is finding where there isn't one. Everything is holy now. Mm-hmm. And it's just a lovely song. That one and My Soul are two songs from Peter Mayer that you would thoroughly enjoy, I'm certain.
I remember the Peter Mayer song. I think Michael told us about it at one point, and I remember it. Yeah, everything is holy now. I don't remember the melody. I'll go listen. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, I had a therapist, a brilliant woman in her 60s when I was in my 40s. Of course, I had a huge crush on her, transference on her big time, made her into the good mother and the bad mother, and boy, did we go into stuff. It was amazing. But one thing she said is, I forget what it was, something really bawdy, like a pimple or something. She said, even a pimple can be a vehicle for holy learning. And I thought, that is so fabulous, and it's just true.
Well, it's an ancient truth. It's woven into the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. It says, I commit to the idea that I have enough of everything. I commit to the idea that the opposite of my story is as true as my story. I commit to seeing all people and all circumstances as allies that are perfectly suited to help me learn the most important things for my growth, whether it's a pimple or someone cutting me off in traffic or someone giving me $1 million. Good, bad, otherwise, the label is, remember the umpires, there were 3 umpires arguing in a bar, and one of them said, listen, there's balls and strikes, and I call them as they are. And the other one said, well, there's balls and strikes, and I call them as I see them. And the third one said, well, fellas, to me, there's just pitches until I call them.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it took me a second. That's good.
Reality is a flow of energy.
Yeah.
It's the creative life force unfolding. It isn't good or bad. There is no such thing as a natural disaster. We have that phrase in our vocabulary, but there is no animal that has the phrase natural disaster in its vocabulary because it doesn't exist. It's just nature until we label it. And that is with everything in our lives, and that is how we create our experience of life. We create our experience of life by how we interpret and then respond to each event. And each event is whole and complete in itself, part of the unfolding of the creative life force. You know,
Boy,
depending upon who you listen to these days. Go ahead.
If you really, really live into that, you become a person practicing humility, real humility, which is seeing the highest and best in yourself and everyone or everything else and operating from there. I don't know who defined humility that way, but it's been mentioned on the radio show more than once.
Yeah, that comes from the Kaboris manuscript, the translation work that Michael and the Kaboris Foundation had done from the oldest known copy of the New Testament, from the ancient Aramaic directly into English, and that was where Michael came up with the definition for humility from the ancient Aramaic, that ability to look for and see the highest and best in another, and then choosing to cooperate only with that highest and best, regardless of whether or not the other person, and regardless of whether or not the other person was living from the conscious awareness of their highest and best. You, as an independent consciousness, can choose to cooperate only with them from their highest and best perspective.
And that strikes me as being utterly safe. If people are afraid, that's my favorite, miserable, that is a safe place out of which to approach the whole of life. Yes,
that is the essence of all the great spiritual teachings. We are the authors of our experience, including our fears and our anxieties. Nothing and no one outside of us is creating our anxiety. That's how I started in the opening of this intro today. We are distracting ourselves every time we start telling a story about I'm anxious because. There's no because to my anxiety. It's an energy I'm experiencing inside myself. I'm creating it. I'm its author. And as I focus on anything outside of me, distract myself from the process and the source of the energy that I say I'd like to get rid of. I'm angry because ... There's the wild goose chase. I'm anxious because I'm afraid of this. That's all a misstatement born of the hallucination that was birthed when I was conditioned to believe that someone or something outside of me is causing my emotions. Nothing ever has, and nothing ever will.
Michael talks about stress being up and chips being down, but those are just things that occur in our life experiences. Yeah, we create them, but the universe offers us more and more intense. This might be a bad belief, so I'm airing it right now. The universe presents to us more and more intense situations to test our neutrality and ability to be well and healthy.
Well,
that's a belief.
I would encourage you to challenge that and understand that the intensity is something you are creating by your resistance and nothing else.
Whoa, so it doesn't matter what situation you are put into. It doesn't matter at all. They are all...
When you resist it, and when you resist it, you create the intensity that you're talking about.
Okay.
But the situation doesn't contain the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the leaf, the leaf that's fallen off a tree that's floating down the river, and it's unobstructed and it's floating down the river on the top of the water.
Mm.
Where's the intensity there? There is none. There's no resistance. There's no intensity. Everything is moving downriver. Everything around the leaf, all the water around, and so it doesn't even notice it's moving. Now, if it had eyes and it could look at the shore and it could judge, oh my gosh, I've moved relative to that, it could say, okay, there's movement, but the leaf on top of the water is just there, and everything, all the water around is moving. Then something comes up as a blockage to that flow of water, and if the leaf gets stuck on it, now the leaf is feeling the torrent of the river. And it might be such that it starts to, bend or tear the leaf, and that's very intense. But it was the same energy flow that minutes before was no problem whatsoever. It's the resistance that turns our life experience into that thing that we call intensity. Mm-hmm. Nothing else creates our intensity except our resistance to the flow of life. So life isn't coming along offering you more and more intense lessons. That's not how it works. Every time you resist a lesson, you create the experience of intensity.
Yep.
Guy Finley says,
and I have...
the lessons we need to learn in life ride into our lives on the back of the events that we don't want.
Exactly, yeah.
And the intensity of the level, the measure of the importance of the lesson is directly proportional to how much I do not want the event and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. So, allowing everything. I'm sure you wouldn't say that we have to say, I want this. But you would say, I allow this.
Exactly. It's not about, because wanting is a judgment.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's
allowing, surrendering, right? Allowing and surrendering from the 5 keys to the kingdom, from the way of mastery, lesson 5. Allowing and surrendering what? Surrendering to be taught by the moment, by the flow of life in this moment. So I'm going to allow it, and I'm going to surrender to be taught by it. I'm going to ask to be shown. Yeah, I'm going to ask to be shown in each new present moment. What's mine to learn here? How can I be a blessing to myself and others? Here's something that unfolds in my day that I don't like. Here's more news about my grandson being unhappy. What's mine to learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be a blessing to myself and others in this moment? Wow, I realized that as I got this news about what my grandson is choosing in his life, I felt a sick feeling in my stomach or a pain in my shoulder that was so much I couldn't do my exercises today. What's mine to do with that?
Yeah.
How might this lead to a lesson I need to learn to move to the next level? How can I be a blessing to myself and others in this moment? What am I making this situation mean? How am I creating this negative emotion? Any of these questions are good starting points.
Great, yeah.
Because as Rilke says, they help us live in the question.
I know this is universal stuff, but I feel personally very grateful to be listening to this right now, I feel as if I'm getting equipped for the next time Jacob moves in with us. We are his step-down halfway house people. When he's released from there, he's coming back to us, and it's going to be good. It's going to be better. I'll get rid of the knots and learn the lessons and allow his little leaf to go down his river without any interference.
Well, that analogy really only works when you accept your little leaf.
Okay.
You're the one that creates or releases the stress and tension in your life. You can't do it for him. However, the bloodline and because of the intensity, it's all going to benefit him.
Yeah.
But he also has his own life to live, and he can choose to stay with it, watch it, observe it, apply in his own life, or resist.
Yeah. One thing that's happening out there is he called yesterday and said, I was in a group today and they talked about reading food labels. And I said, what did you learn? And he said that a lot of what I've been eating is not really food. That's Michael's thing. And it's horrible for you. And then he said, and then I remembered you. You eat clean. When I come back there, I want to do what you do. I thought, whoa, is that great? I said, you're going to eat a lot of salads. He said, I'll eat them. Anyway, it's just his mind is moving. He is learning a lot out there, being prepped for coming back to us in a good way, I think. So thanks for listening to all that, the personal stuff. Yeah, thanks.
It's all good to hear.
Thanks. That's good.
And just remember, it's your leaf on the river that is your domain, and you have dominion over that and that alone.
Yep.
And how you choose to interpret and respond to your life experience is what's going to drive your life events is what's going to drive your experience of life.
Right. Well, thanks, Dr. Tim.
Well, you're entirely welcome, Susan Bingham, and deserving.
Thanks.
Funny, isn't it, how that sometimes strikes a chord?
Which? The being deserving?
Yeah.
I think it's a funny thing. I like how you say that.
Well, it's a challenge to a lot of people's conditioning.
Yes,
a lot of
is.
us
It is.
live with the implicit belief that we are not, especially if we had any kind of a Catholic upbringing, because there's that original sin rather than the original blessing, which the ancient Aramaic teachings would have us tune into.
Right.
We actually have original blessing, not original sin, according to the ancient Aramaic teachings. And there are a variety of religious systems, including the Catholic, that would have us believe otherwise.
I know.
Not just otherwise, but the exact opposite. So that's part of the the little one-person campaign to change that for the better, to say you are welcome and deserving. You are not damaged from inception.
There's something very quaint and proper about the word, though, and I always chuckle when you say it, but I understand what you're saying. It's hard to explain, but if people giggle a little bit, you just can relax. it's very unusual, formal, or something.
Right. The fact that it's unusual is born of the fact that there's a need for it.
Yeah, that's true. There is.
It's like the concept of news, and people say, why don't they do more, put more of the good news out there? Well, the essence of it is the news is what's exceptional. That's why they get away with promoting all of the negativity and all of the drama and trauma and all of the fires and explosions and wars, because that's the exception.
Mm.
Somebody doing something nice for somebody else is not news. It's how we survive. It's how we're, as I used to say, if all we heard on the news was all that was happening, we would have annihilated ourselves centuries ago. There's always far more good going on than there is bad, and that's why the bad stuff is novel. It's news. It's new. So we just want to remind people who have been conditioned otherwise that you're welcome and deserving. So I thank you for chiming in here and helping us determine what we would talk about this hour. I will be sending loving thoughts and blessings to you and your family as you try to be more of the leaf on the surface rather than resisting the flow, and we'll look forward to the next time we get to talk.
Thanks, Dr. Tim. Me too.
Blessings. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Have a great show.
Thank you.